Xbox have just rolled out the biggest update to the Allies, default game profiles. I want to talk about what it is, the good bits, the bad bits, and the future of it as well. Default profiles, though, Andy. Tell me how boring it is.
Well, it's not what I initially thought it was going to be, which I thought it was going to be a wider rollout of the handheld optimized profiles in games, which is what it sounds like with game profiles. You know, like I was thinking what we saw with Doom: The Dark Ages, which is a very demanding game.
100%.
But then they rolled out the handheld optimized graphics preset setting. This is not that. This is something different. And what this actually does is an automatic change of your TDP, the outputting power that you're diverting to the APU to run these games. So the way I see it is effectively it's an FPS limiter.
Right, it's time for me to pay the 128 KB bills with today's totally impartial video sponsor, and that's Satisfye. And yes, let's be real, you guys know this isn't a script. We absolutely love Satisfye on the channel, and for years we've been supporting them, saying that their grips are the absolute gold standard for any Nintendo Switch product. And the Zen Grip 2, it is hands down the ultimate grip for the new Switch 2. It's got that legendary asymmetrical design that places your hands, let's face it, in the perfect position. It just fixes any kind of hand cramping or ergonomic uncomfort. It feels amazing. And because it's designed from the ground up for the new console, it's opened up access to all the ports. It doesn't obstruct any cooling vents, which is absolutely crucial for this new hardware. And yes, it is fully dockable. But they've just announced something new that we're also genuinely hyped for. They've just opened up pre-orders for their new Switch 2 hardshell cover. This isn't a bulky carry case, it's a low-profile protective shell that clips directly onto the Zen Grip 2. It gives you 360-degree protection to the front face of your Switch, but also keeps that ultra-slim design so you can just throw it in your bag. It's a floating design, so it actually never touches your screen, and it keeps the USB-C ports open so you can charge whilst it's also protected. It even stores 4 game carts inside the face of the hardshell cover. It also includes their new flush clips. These are genuinely genius. They're dual-purpose clips that cover the game card slots in the grips for extra comfort. They can also act as retention clips for your joysticks to hold them fully upright. That means no extra pressure on those joysticks whilst in travel. It's a super smart design. And here is the best news. Satisfye have just kicked off their Black Friday sale. The Zen Grip 2 is fully in stock and shipping right now, and their new hardshell is available to pre-order at 20% off. Honestly, if you have a Switch 2, then you need the Satisfye grip. It's as simple as that. So make sure you hit the link in the description to check out their Black Friday deals. Make sure to use our code 128BIT for an exclusive discount. And by doing so, you'll be directly supporting what we do here on the channel. So massive thanks to Satisfye for sponsoring this video. 100% frame limiter, yep.
Allows the TDP to fluctuate to sustain that frame rate. And this is only available on battery because it only needs to be on battery. If you're plugged in, then you can just throw as much power as you want to the chip and get, you know, as much power as you want. I mean, they've got variable refresh screens, so they can, you know, you don't need to cap the frame. However, on battery power, to save battery, instead of, let's take an example of putting 20 watts consistently and then having the frame rate jumping anywhere between, let's say, like 50 and 90 FPS all over the place, depending on where you are in the game. Instead, you'll say, okay, I want a stable 60 FPS. And instead of just constantly throwing 20 watts, even when it doesn't need it, that 20 watts might jump down to 12 watts or 15 watts or 19 watts. So the frame rate will stay capped and the power output will then adjust.
Basically a dynamic power setting, which would have been a better name for it.
Exactly that, yeah.
Because I'm like you, when they made the announcement, I saw the headline saying get default game profiles. I was like, oh, they're making a wider rollout to what they did with Doom. Yes. But no, it's not. It is a dynamic power setting, which is great. It's really handy for people that are inexperienced with the settings that are available on PC handhelds. Yes. I've got a question, first of all. Currently, you have fixed modes that you can pick, which are fixed wattages. Yes. And you have like number of options and it will jump up in between them. Does the dynamic profiling here allow the TDP to be set in increments in between? Or is it going to jump between the power settings that are already there for you?
It's going to jump in between.
And so do those big steps.
It will fluctuate anywhere that is between like whatever is available to it to achieve that power. So it's not just going to flick between 13 watt like silent mode to 15 watt performance or 17
so my
watts.
head, they haven't specified, but I was wondering if it's just going to step between those 4 options or if it's going to do like a slider.
It will slider between, and what this does is it completely grays out the user selectable modes. So those predefined modes, or even if you make your own in the custom modes, that's going to gray out. So you will not be able to mess with it yourself, because this is basically overriding that, and it will just literally go anywhere it can to hit the stable frame rate that you've chosen. So it might even go above. So whilst they're like pushing that this is a battery lifesaver, if you put the frame rate too high as a choice, well then you're going to be putting out even more battery, which is something to consider.
There's also an interesting thing. So like you say, yes, it grays out the options in the game bar, like in create stuff. So you can't do it yourself. It's like, this is a dumbed down power profiling. There's one interesting part of it, which I still can't quite get my head around, is that this isn't a system-wide rollout. This is implemented on a game-by-game basis.
Yes, yeah, which is really surprising, because I thought, like, okay, this is just an update to effectively Armory Crate, and it's going to allow that to just see the frame rate from the I can't think of what it's called, the frame counter,
the overlay,
and then just dictate the power that way. But no, you're right, it is actually game implemented via Microsoft on specific games.
It's a really interesting curveball, that, because in my mind I can't see why it's not just system wide, but they're obviously having to use the developers in some way, maybe to do the frame limiting, maybe to do some part of how the signal flow works there. It's hard to know, but it's all the Microsoft games that are the first ones to be getting this. The Call of Duties, Doom, Forza, Gears, Halo, Indiana Jones, Minecraft, Sea of Thieves, and the Tony Hawk's games.
Yes.
Or just Tony Hawk's 3 and 4. But obviously this is a day one rollout. I imagine more and more of the games that are, at least that are Microsoft games, will get this pretty quickly.
Yes.
I don't know what that means for third-party developers, whether they'll start implementing this or will feel that they want to.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because it overtakes the Armory Crate like ability. I think this is going to be locked down to at least the Xbox Allies, the 2 of those. It might roll backwards to the Ally and the Ally X, the ROG products, possibly. But I can't see this happening for like Lenovo and MSI unless they allow the integration of it, because it needs to override their software. Yeah,
and also then when you look at games that are outside of the Microsoft stable as well, like third-party games, like obviously they're having to work with the development teams to do this in some way. How much that'll get rolled out, because this obviously affects performance. There is a trade-off that's happening here, which is kind of where I want to go to now, which is the bad bits about this. And straight away, I'm not a frame rate detective, right? We're not Digital Foundry. We don't get videos and start looking at the frame scores and the pacings and stuff.
Yeah.
But straight away on the Xbox announcement, they had a lady playing the white Xbox Ally, playing Forza on it, Forza Horizon, I believe it was.
Yep.
And instantly I texted Andy, I was like, have you seen how horrific the frame pacing is in that game? Part of me was like, maybe it's just that's how it runs on that kind of underpowered handheld device. That's just what it's like. But it was stuttery. You could see frame lagging. Like when you run games when you don't have enough VRAM. You get that frame holding, that experience.
Or like not quite enough power, where the 1% lows are so bad that it's just, it might be averaging that frame rate, but you can see dips in performance. It's noticeable. And I noticed it too.
I was going to say, you noticed it on Whitson's stuff thing, didn't you?
Asus released the same kind of video where they actually showed it like live, and I just put it down to maybe it's the stream, the quality of the stream. But that was the first thing I noticed. Whilst it says like 60 FPS, it certainly wasn't a consistent 60 FPS. But then when you start to think about it, it's like, well, if the power's allowed to fluctuate, it's going to have some delay to be able to know which part of the game requires less power and then the next part of the game requires more power. So if you're constantly pushing and pulling power there's going to be times where that 1% low is too low because there's a delay in how the power's pushed. That's going to cause that frame rate issue. So I think, as you alluded to at the beginning, this is going to be great for new users that don't understand how to control system power, where they might be accidentally running it at full power whilst playing Silk Song when you don't need that, and they're wondering why the battery life sucks, right? This is going to hopefully help them with those kind of titles, whereas I'd suggest if you're an advanced user, you probably already know how to configure the power correctly to get a consistent frame rate yourself, or just use an actual frame rate limiter that's built into Armory Crate or AMD software anyway.
The tools are already there to do this yourself, and will do it in a much better way without that trade-off, because absolutely, like you say, this dynamic power profiling, which I'm going to call it, is reactive and it's not preemptive. It can't preempt what's going to happen.
No.
And with anything that's reactive from frame gen or upscaling, there's always a time cost attached to those reactive processes. The time cost of this is obviously going to be larger than what a 60th of a second is for 60 FPS.
Yeah.
So you're going to get a lot of 1%, really low 1% lows, like you say, if it's decided that whilst you're not driving in Forza Horizon and just sat there, that you actually only need 10 watts right now, and then you go and decide to drive through a wall or something, and it's loads of dynamic stuff's happening. It's like, I've got to react to that. It's too late. You've already had the dragging feeling.
Yes.
That's the negatives of this. You go to the good parts of it, which kind of is the caveat. The first is, it's going to be super easy to use for new users.
That is definitely the benefit here.
Primarily when you consider the Xbox Ally, which I thought was interesting that Xbox announcement showed that device, because that kind of gave me a hint at who it's really aimed for.
Exactly that. Yeah, those more inexperienced users that might have just picked one of these up coming from console, going straight from Xbox and wanting, a second system essentially to play your Xbox games on the go, then that's more, in my mind, the more sort of newbie users that might not understand the power profiling. And I think this will help them to get better battery life, because it is going to give you better battery life. It's just for someone like me, I would be seeing those stuttering, the frame rate drops and stuff, and being like, no, thank you, I'll configure it myself.
No way.
But for a one click, just press go on the game and play it, then this is going to make a lot of people happy. And some people don't even really see frame drops as well, which, is something to consider.
Yeah, that's fine. And if you come from console, then there's moments where if you're aware of it, you experience it all the time on console games. You get 1% low, quite a lot of 1% lows that feel like stuttering and stuff. Old bits of hardware that you've got for 7 years that have been sold cheaply to you.
I see it all the time on
happen.
Xbox. Yeah, on the Series X, I see the frame drops constantly. Yeah, I really do.
So perhaps when we're trying to paint it as a good thing, when you look at console gamers coming over and wanting one-button solutions to things, they won't notice the drawback from this setting.
Yeah, I think this is going to be ideal for those, because take my wife, for example. She plays on the Series X all the time, and I see the frame drops, and I say, did you notice that? Did you notice this? She's like, no. She didn't even realize that it's happening. She's like, I don't really care. If she plays on PC, she immediately says, wow, this feels much better. But while she's on the Series X, she doesn't even notice those frame drops. So I think a lot of users won't even realize, and it's a net win, because they'll be getting longer time to play by optimizing the battery effectively. So this is great. I don't think it's for the experienced users, unless you can't be bothered and you just want to play quickly, then great, whack this on. But I do like the fact that this is you can disable this. This is not a forced on thing. You've got the choice of let it do it for you, or you can choose yourself. And I like that. I'm glad that they're not taking the choice away from you there.
Yeah, it's really nice. And I guess really that the final part there, it kind of gives us a glimpse into the future. It reinforces the fact that they are doubling down on this area of gaming, that they've not just released something like cut and drop, that beyond the full screen experience, they're actually focusing on handheld gaming quite a lot on the Microsoft side of things.
Yes, yeah.
And this gives us a glimpse into the future of like, how do we get more people to embrace this, that have come from consoles, that want ease of use, that want one button settings. You go to your Xbox or your PlayStation, and in the options, if you've got graphics or performance options at all, which isn't always the case, but if you do, it's typically 2 options. It's like performance or quality. Mm-hmm. If you go to PS5 Pro, maybe they've implemented a few more because of FSR and stuff that's in there. But you might be looking at 4 options or 3 options. We're used to these one-button solutions and not considering the consequences of what that is.
Yes.
It's encouraging to see that the Xbox team and Microsoft in general are rolling out more and more of these for PC handhelds as an option, not as mandatory.
Yeah, I think it's making it more accessible for users to get into the PC handheld space. And I think that's why they showed the Xbox Ally specifically in the video, to kind of say, look, like, you know, for this type of user, this is going to be great. And I do think it would make it much more pick up and play for a lot of people, because you don't need to think about it. You just click like, and then play, and you don't have to worry about like trying to run a AAA game on like the 13-watt silent profile and wondering why it's not working. If you let this dynamic profiling, which is much better name, take over and do it for you, then you're going to have a much better time, and without even needing to understand why or how.
At what point do you think that Xbox are going to start employing us to come up with the names of things?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, they should have called Xbox Full Screen Experience Xbox OS. It would have been much better. But
Xbox OS.
Yeah, there you go.
Dynamic profiling. The Ally S. I mean, they call me Phil Spencer for a reason. That's all I'm going to say. Okay?
It's because you're the real one. The imposter's there.
And I would have got away with it too. They did, just really quickly, they did roll out some other improvements as well, but just minor kind of tweaks to stuff that like kind of bug report things, the responsiveness of gamepad after login and stuff, and quicker library loading. They're little tweaks and stuff. I'm just encouraged that they are continuing to focus on this so heavily and rolling out updates so quickly.
That's the point there. They're the speed in which they're rolling out these updates is not what I expected from them. Honestly, I thought it would be longer before we started seeing stuff like this, because this wasn't even on their like projection path as far as I remember.
Wasn't on the roadmap.
No, from the roadmap, from even what they were telling us sort of behind the doors at Gamescom and stuff. Like, I don't remember any reference to this, and this is coming out before we're seeing other stuff that they have promised. So it's nice to see these little surprises that they've gone, actually, this would be really handy for users, or we're seeing people's complaints are this, so let's fix it with this. It's quite good that they're reacting so quickly to what people might be wanting. If
I was going to be critical, they needed to on the Windows side of stuff. They needed to, because they launched something that wasn't quite ready yet. It did still need work, so they were responding to stuff quickly, which is good. And I know there's a lot of people particularly in our channel members, who have had a rough kind of day one experience with full screen experience, specifically on the Ally devices. So it's good to see that change is happening. So if you're in that camp, be encouraged. If you're new to it, know that they are here to embrace new users, and so it's exciting to see. In of itself, the release is kind of like, for me, it doesn't really mean much. It's just kind of a minor thing, but it's kind of what it indicates for the future that's exciting.
Yes, yeah. And again, if it makes it easier for newcomers, then that's just going to eventually, stuff's going to get better for the more advanced users as well.
Yeah, 100%. I'd love to know what you guys think, though, down in the comments down below. Just let us know there. And, of course, like this video whilst you're down there. Subscribe for more handheld gaming content. And what else should they do, Andy?
Become a member, and you get to chat to us over on our private Discord as well.
So until the next time.
Bye.